All right, let's see if I turn this knob. We're streaming on Facebook. Over here is Twitch, and there's YouTube. Feel like a mad scientist here, as if I kind of know what I'm doing, right? Hey, everybody. I'm Bill Schaefer, and this is Growing Bolder. Now, glad you're here. This is a program I think you're going to like. We do this every week, and we talk about things that all of us can do to get more out of life, to live our best life possible. And really, how often do we think about ourselves? We think about our job, we think about our families, or what do we need to do on our to-do list, but how often do you think about you, your own life? And not that there's anything wrong with what we're doing now, it's just that life is tough. You know, we have to make difficult choices, and we don't always make the right ones. Life wears you down. It wears all of us down, and we inevitably fall into a routine. We do the same things the same way every day. And what happens? Before you know it, weeks, months, and even years go by in a flash. So how do we stop that from happening? Well, we have to do things like this. We have to live lives of intent, to actually think about each day, to live following our passions and with purpose and a whole lot of gratitude. We all need a little boost to do it. And folks, that is Growing Bolder. Do check out growingbolder.com in an internet sea full of websites that are all just about the same. How many more cat videos do you need to see? Growingbolder.com is one of the most unique that you will find, because it's where you will find everything you need to rekindle that spark inside you, the one that inspires you to live your best life. Well, we are really glad that you are here. And one of the things we love to do is ask you to leave in the comment section where you're watching from, because we do find that this reaches out not just across the U.S., but everywhere else indeed too. Jana Overstreet just commented on Facebook that she is here from Mattoon, Illinois. It's good to see you, Jana. Hope you really enjoy what you see today. And if you do, share the word for us. Tom Lamb is here as well. Thania Sengi from Baltimore, Maryland, seeing lots of new names this week. And that's always great, because we want to, no use preaching to the choir, right? We want to find as many people as possible that are just looking for that something, that little thing to rekindle the spark inside. And that's, you're going to love today's interview because of that. Scott Brandt is here from St. Louis. And Scott, you'll love our next guest. I got to tell you the backstory when I get a chance to talk to you, but you were one of the reasons that inspired me to have him on. Scott Brandt, what a great guy. He was one of our guests maybe a month and a half ago, and he's got this most incredible classic car dealership in St. Louis. And what a great guy. He's just a guy that gets it, that understands how to live life, much like our next guest, whose roots go back to the same place as Scott and I. Anita Lee from Sherman Oaks. It's great to have you here. She's an amazing publicist and an amazing person. Janice McCabe from Philly. Vicki Davis from Boyd, Montana. This is great. This is a good week. Teresa Doherty from Silver Springs, Maryland. This is fantastic. So we got a great start. Mary Kuykendall is here from Fort Worth, Texas. So here's what I was thinking of to help kind of sum up what we're going to do this week. Isn't it interesting to notice how, as we age, our thoughts, our opinions, and even our goals, they sometimes tend to change, occasionally dramatically. And the things that once seemed so important, so life and death, so black and white, all of a sudden lose a little bit of that power. They seem empty. They seem meaningless. Well, I happened upon this song from one of my favorite musicians, a very cool guy who really seems to get it. So let's listen to a little bit of it.
You take your time, all your wishes will be met. I haven't lost my faith and my dream ain't happened yet. But I know deep inside, I'm on the right path. It won't be long till you see our photograph on every front page and every movie store. They all like our work and they're asking for more. Well, I'm sitting on the sidewalk with a pencil in my hand, writing down the words. I'm a rich and happy man. Hey, rich and happy man, rich and happy man. Lord, I'm in your kitchen. I'm a rich and happy man, rich and happy man, rich and happy man. Lord, I'm in your kitchen. I'm a rich and happy man. Hey.
Oh man, I didn't want that to stop. Isn't that fantastic? That's great. I want to hear more. I'm sure you do too. The song is called Rich and Happy Man by a guy who at this stage of his life may well be as happy and at peace as he's ever been. How old is he? Well, he's maybe 3 years or so past traditional retirement age. Only there's no retirement for this guy in sight. He's a guy who made a choice early on that instead of fitting into a career that he didn't like, he was going to follow his passion no matter where it took him. Well, it ended up taking him on a pretty incredible journey. And just like all incredible journeys, there were dark days, probably more than he wished he had. There were dead-end turns, there were painful lessons, all that stuff. But all in all, I think he's pretty proud of where he ended up and where he's going. So let's go all the way to Los Angeles to introduce you to a musician, singer, songwriter, storyteller, guitarist, great guy, the leader of the Marlon Hoffman band. Let's say hi to Marlon Hoffman. How are you, buddy?
Oh my God. I'm fine, Bill. Thank you so much. Wow.
Well, it's kind of weird.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say it's weird to hear somebody else kind of sum up your kind of who you are into an intro, but that's, maybe you're the last to know, maybe you're the last to realize how, we all have people in our lives who are needy, who are the ones that, need a shoulder every once in a while, or, you're the guy, you're the shoulder for everybody, and you've got a tough profession where a lot of people tend to be about me, but you're like the opposite of that guy. So Marlon, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. And now that I heard that, that intro from you and all that love, I'm much better. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, so let's dive into this, and let me ask you to confirm or deny some words I may have put in your mouth a minute or two ago. Is this one of the best times in your life? And if so, how can that be?
Wow. Well, I don't think I summed it up in my own head until you said it. So I'm really grateful to you. Like today, you're my external ego. So I really, it's true. It's true. And when you were telling that last story about people and their journeys and the choices they make, I thought of I'm nervous. So what am I going to say? So I thought of a little story that was really important in my life. And I did have a background in the health services. In college, I worked suicide rescue, and I was backstage at all the rock concerts doing, suicide rescue and drug counseling in the 70s, And I did that for 4 years. Then I worked at a hospital for asthmatic children. We had a little 12 kids that were all critically ill with asthma, and we were called Fonzie's Fan Club. I carried their adrenaline around, and we went and saw movies, and I was kind of their parent. And then I worked in a cancer ward counseling cancer patients for a year and a half. So I had this background with a degree, just a BA in psychology and almost a master's. But so I took a lot of jobs like that over the years. And in Florida, where you're at, I was in Miami, and I was the admissions, all the while doing music and doing theater. That was my passion in life, always doing music and being in bands and all that, but day jobs. So I was the admissions counselor at South Miami Hospital Treatment Center. And so that grew, and I ended up getting as a full counselor at Cedar Sinai. And I was doing theater and I was doing music at night. I was playing in a punk rock bar in Hialeah called Churchill's, for those that know Churchill's. And I was doing, with my drum machine and my Rickenbacker guitar, I did a wedding on the beach, at the tip of the beach, at the end of the beach on Miami Beach, and all kinds of funny gigs. And so I was very busy, and I had a lot of mentors, spiritual mentors and friends. And one day during the day when I was all suited up to be a counselor, I was introducing a mother to her daughter. They hadn't seen each other for a long time because of crack and drugs and whatever. Mrs. Johnson, this is your daughter. And right in the middle of my introduction, Bill, your buddy Marlon fell asleep. I kind of like nodded out. I was so tired.
Like today.
So I went to my mentor. I said, let's call him Joe the mailman. And he's like a guru. And I went to Joe and I said, what do I do? And he said this, which reminded me completely of your intro. He said, Marlon, I've lived a long time and had a lot of choices in life, but I've learned one thing. Good is the enemy of best. You can starve as a counselor, or you can starve as an artist. He goes, what's the best one for you? Make a choice. And I did. And a lot of stuff happened. I got into a play, a Sam Shepard play, playing A Tooth of Crime. I played a rocker, and I took that play all the way up the coast to Florence, South Carolina, to a theater for 3 months, and then to the Trocadero in the West Village in New York City. I got on Miami Vice. I had a little speaking role and a few other TV shows, and it's been one long journey like that since then. I have taught. I have been a teacher. Sometimes I couldn't just make it as a musician, and so I taught. I taught theater, and I taught music and musical theater, all kinds of things. But the last 10 years has been growing bolder. It has.
People always say, Marlon, that like you're the sum of your experiences, and that's one of the things that makes you such a dynamic and really deep person. You as you said, you've had these incredible life experiences that most of us don't, because as we grow up, people say, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? Meaning pick one thing. So here you are having a little taste in all these different directions. Did you feel lost because you didn't have the one overriding goal or the one overriding dream? Or is that what music always was for you? And what did that other stuff mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. I didn't feel lost because all of your appendages creatively are your children. And I remember studying with the great master acting teacher, Lee Strasberg. And I was with him for a year and a half, and he let me run the stage at the Actors Studio. And I was playing guitar, and I had my 1927. I'm into guitars for all you guitar lovers. I had an old 1927 Epiphone F-hole, a good buddy of mine from St. Louis bought me. And I said to Lee, I said, should I focus on acting and not do my music? And he got really mad. He loved getting mad with his little voice. He could poke that finger at you. He goes, no. That is your arm. That is your child. You play guitar and you never quit and you always sing. And he burned that into my soul. And I've always helped people, with that sort of understanding. And so, but on the choice, one or the other, yes, you can sabotage. You're becoming successful here, and then your fear of success over here, then you open up this one instead. And so this one becomes less potent, and so you're doing both, but nothing's really taking off. And I think the reason I'm taking off today, and it's a miracle and wonderful, and I'm so privileged to do so, is because I've been sticking with the one, my music. And it's been all music now, only for 10 years, and every day. I'm in this studio with some of the greatest musicians in the world. I have my mentor and teacher comes at 8:30 in the morning. We work till 10. Another new friend of mine, I'll brag about him, Davy Johnstone, the guitar player from Elton John's band. He just finished an album here. It's really kind of, I'll tell you a secret about it. I live on a cul-de-sac called Kenrose. So he goes, what should we say on the album? Where was this album made? He made his album here. I said, Kenrose Studio. It sounds like it's in England, but it's in the end of a cul-de-sac. So anyway. Yeah, so we're flourishing, and my 8-piece band is just great. So I'm having a good time.
Yeah, we want to show that off, and we want to talk a lot about that. But before we do, I don't want to let your early work go by. When what you do is when you counsel people who are suicidal or who are struggling with addictions. A lot of people say, a piece of you kind of goes with all of them, and you sort of forget yourself. You kind of get lost in their problems. How did that affect you, being able to see suffering on different levels and be part of people in probably the toughest struggles of their lives?
I did pretty good in all of it. Working at the cancer ward was tough. After a year and a half of that, you lose everybody, and I had to stop that. But I'm not afraid of holding someone's hand to the very end and being there for them, whether it's a game of chess we're going to play for 6 months, or just a telephone call or visiting. I'm very interested in people's transitions and the love that you can have. So you do have to have good boundaries for yourself. You have to be one before you can be two. So before you get into, and codependency is a real thing. So, you got to take care of yourself and feel strong enough. But I do believe your salvation is in service to others. In all my prayers now, whenever I want to manifest something, and I consider myself a manifester, it's always if it's of service to others. So, the connection that we have, the connection you and I have, Bill, I just met your partner, Mikey, and, now I got a connection with him, and that's what it's all about, our connections. But you do have to have your boundaries, because you can get lost, like you said, and that's part of growing up.
You said something amazing there, Marlon. You have to be one before you can be two. I think that's fantastic. I've got to remember that. That's so important. And that reminds me of this too, because I know you've been described as this transcendental journeyman, and I think what that means is that you've been knocked on your butt more than a time or two yourself. So when you're not looking out after others and you're living your own life, and you run into stumbling blocks and struggles and uncertainty, people look at you now and they go, man, this guy's amazing. He's fantastic. But you can't really understand how good the good is with how low the bad was. How did things go for you?
Okay. Well, I was a sensitive kid. I took my parents' divorce very difficult, and at 8 years old, I was hospitalized for 3 months with emotional. I blamed myself for their divorce, and so, that was tough. And then later, after the hippie years, I did all the things a good hippie was supposed to do to help. And I got to tell you something. My best friends today are veterans of the Vietnam War, and I do a lot of work with PTSD, and these guys are my close buddies. But in the 70s, I was on the side of protest and all the drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. And so it took me to a terrible bottom, where I ended up, divorced at 24 and didn't see my son for a while, and a good while. And I met some incredible people getting well, and it was a battle, and not a battle, it was a surrender. It was a surrendering my pain and surrendering my difficulties. And and I've been through a lot of stuff, poverty. I lived in the Marlton Hotel when it was like a place where like Lenny Bruce almost died, and Jack Kerouac wanted to die, but it's glamorous flophouse, in the 70s. Now it's a luxury hotel, the Marlton. And I actually had a guitar made from the bones of it, the wood from inside it. It's been renovated, and I've been renovated. So yeah.
Do you have that guitar nearby?
I do. Hold on.
Yeah, and part of the reason that I feel comfortable asking Marlon to talk about that part of his life is I think all of us can relate to that, because, any of us who maybe your friends look like they've never been through anything, well, it's not true. We all, life is hard, life's difficult, and sometimes things happen, and being able to hear that it is possible to pull things together when you don't think it is. Hey, I'm sorry, Marlon, you go ahead.
No, it's good. So there's a man on Carmine Street and his partner, Rick Kelly, and his partner, Cindy Hewlick, and they make guitars. They make them for Bob Dylan, and they did make them for Lou Reed and G.E. Smith and Mark Ribot, all these wonderful guitar players, Lenny Kaye, most of the guitar players Bill Frisell, all the guitar players I really respect. And they make them out of the wood of old buildings, the 300-year-old pine. And so I had one guitar that he made for me out of the same piece of wood that he made for Dylan. And then I told him a story that I was staying at the Marlton Hotel. He goes, I have wood from the Marlton Hotel. And I go, well, my nickname in the hippie days for a few minutes there during the Wounded Knee, my nickname was Rabbi Whitehawk. That was just for 6 months in 1977. It was a kind of a joke, but I was taking it kind of seriously. Everybody was changing their names and having hippie names. So I said, Dylan's got an eagle on his guitar. I want a hawk on my guitar. And so for 3 years, him and Cindy, Rick, made this guitar. And it's just a work of art. And I play it, and it sounds wonderful. It's a beautiful guitar, and it's very light. And okay, Rick, that's my Rick Kelly commercial.
And what a great thing too to keep you grounded, because it helps remind you of when times were not very good for you, and you probably wondered if you were in the right place and doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think if you can get through to the healing part of life and the surrender, your pain will be your palette for helping others. You know, probably the greatest healing device would be empathy and understanding another. And so sharing your stories is part of the healing process. Joseph Campbell, the
Yep.
great
Power of myth.
Yeah, he said that we learn consciously two different ways. We learn from telling stories, and that could be going to a therapist, talking to your neighbor, going to a meeting, writing a letter, writing a biography, going on the Growing Bolder show. So, and that's one way you raise your consciousness, learning. And another way is listening to the beat, music, in the dance. And he says that because that imitates the heart. And he believed that your consciousness can grow the same in either way, whether it's you're into music and thing, and then if you're lucky enough to combine the two, a story within the music, then you got a double whammy on that. You're really growing. So that's why we listen to all this. You and I didn't know each other in high school that well, and or I don't know at all, but we listened to the same songs. Yeah. And we probably know the same words of the same songs. So think about that. Why? Some great divine intelligence wanted us as a group of people to learn. So I could sit there and sing Yardbird songs to you all day, and you know every song I'm talking about. Isn't that crazy? Beatles.
Yes, you had another amazing statement, and Jana Overstreet put that up as a comment. And how cool is that? Your pain will be your palette for helping others. It's another great Marlon Hoffmanism. Despite the struggles and the tough times, you also always seem to have good karma. Cool things happen to you out of the blue. You mentioned that right now you're working with longtime Elton John guitarist Davy Johnstone. How cool is that? And Bernard Fowler, if you don't know his name, for decades, he's been a backup singer with the Rolling Stones. And Denny Sywell, drummer from Paul McCartney and Wings. Yeah,
these are friends. And Bernard is like, with all those guys, I'm having a bromance. I love them. We support each other, and they have projects going on. They're growing bolder, and they support mine. And it's just been a real privilege. And it makes me, when things like that happen, because you do your artwork alone a lot, and then you join in. And people in my band, I want to mention them, and the lineup in my band, it's like family, and everybody cares for everybody. And, you make sure you're all right with each other before you start playing the music. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful to share life with these people. I like to mention a few people. Can I mention a few people in my band right now?
Yes, please.
Well, there's a bass player named Jody Daly who has made me guitars now. He's a guitar maker. And Jody, I met about 10 years ago when he came to, he worked for Spectrum. I called Spectrum to increase my Wi-Fi. And this guy comes in looking like a strapping young member of the band The Police. He's a tall guy, is from Australia. And I said to him, he said to me, I'm sorry. I said to him, I'm sorry, my office is so messy. I'll be out of your way. And he goes, that's all right, mate. Just as long as you talk music to me. And we've been like family ever since. So he's the bottom of the band. He's the bass player. And the drummer now is John Poli, who's a world touring drummer. He's worked with Naked Eyes and many other Latin. He's a glorious. He does he's an amazing drummer. He's from Long Beach, and he drives an hour and a half to rehearse. Martin Flores is the second percussionist. He's a boat captain. He'll take you on a little tour from Long Beach to Catalina. The ladies that sing backup, Angel, Kimsey, and Jessica, are all professionals, and they all are singers in their own right. The piano player, John Harjo, is just amazing. And the musical director, now I've given up musical directing of my band, and that's why it's probably getting better, is John O'Kennedy. He's the other guitar player, and He works with me in this room every morning from 8:30 till 10. He worked for Disney. He did soundtracks, and he's worked with Jackson Browne and Ry Cooder. He's a guitar teacher, teaches for 40 years. It's a crack band. And just getting in the middle of these musicians and playing my 3 and 4 song chords that I wrote on the streets of Manhattan and in Miami, I played on the streets for my bagel and my coffee. To play with these guys, this 8-piece band, is just absolute heaven. It's just the best.
Folks, we're talking to Marlon Hoffman here, a musician in LA, and it's incredible to hear the enthusiasm and the excitement coming from you. You're 68 years old now?
Yes.
And the Beatles defined old as being 64. The Who hoped they'd die before they'd get old. So what are your thoughts on being this age?
Well, I don't really believe in it anymore, because all my heroes, like, they died at 27. They had 3 years of this, and that was it. If you can make life more important than your material aspirations, if you can make getting along with your neighbors and your partners and your children and your parents and forgiving, you get into this forgiveness and surrender sort of a life, acceptance, you can just start enjoying. You can smell the roses. You could have a dog and take your dog for a walk, and you can provide a meal for people that need company. I mean, that's what it's all about. And then you add your music on top of that, or painting or writing or service to others in one way or another, or whatever your hobby is, your passion. And passion I describe as an activity that you're doing where you don't look at the clock. You're not looking at the watch. You just keep doing it and time goes by. That's what we all should be doing, our passions. And we're all put on earth with a little script in our heart and mind that has our passion. And we should always remember what those are and treat those like children, your passion. So, I don't know. I saw Jerry Lee Lewis at a country western festival out there in Indigo. He was like 90 something doing Great Balls of Fire, so I'm going to get more than 3 years, and I'm having a good time, looking forward to my tour. I'd like to do a sabbatical in Florence, Italy. I'd like you to be there filming it, with the band. Wouldn't that be fun? A songwriting, and a lot of your wife is a great artist, Mary, and she's a great singer. I'd love to perform with her. So, I have it's wide open right now. Wide open.
Your passion is an activity that you do without looking at the clock. Another fantastic quote. It doesn't sound to me like you're even thinking about retirement, but if you ever wanted to, and if you ever decided to move to Florida, well, you've already got a song about it. Here's the Marlon Hoffman Band with a clip from his song, Florida.
Everybody wonders why the news matters. Why should we even try? Still we set sail and set to the nearest wind. Now we have friends here. Now we begin again. Oh my, my. Oh my, my.
That's the song Florida from the Marlon Hoffman Band. Marlon Hoffman fronting. Love the hook, love the feel, love the vibe. And it made me think, Marlon, it looked like that was probably recorded during the pandemic. The pandemic and the lockdown, it killed a lot of bands, really hurt a lot of musicians. What did it do to you guys?
Well, by Kismet, or in Hebrew, Bereshit, or in Rock and Roll Talks and Jungian Talk Synchronicity, I made friends with a group called Alert the Globe. And I'd like to do a little pitch for Alert the Globe. It's alerttheglobe.com. And my friend Ron Garrett now runs it. And there's couple of members of the Rolling Stones on the board. Davy Johnstone's in, Waddy Wachell, a lot of really cool people. I'm sorry if I left you out. There's a lot of cool people. And they stream concerts. And there's a club in San Juan Capistrano on the way to San Diego from LA called the Old Coach House Inn. And it's an old rock and roll club that everybody played at. Willie Nelson, all your cool bands, and it's been there for years. All their photos are on the walls. Great stage. So Alert the Globe during Corona times filmed us with 7 cameras and the best sound system. My partner, Major Wynn is his name, a young man named Major Wynn. His dad was in the Marines. Major recorded the sound with Ron, and it's just the high quality. I've been getting response from my friend in New York. Now he's in Nashville, David Ng, the producer, and his partner, Alex Ewan. They own My Father's Place, for all you folks that remember when Springsteen and U2 got broke at My Father's Place up in Long Island. They saw the video and they go, how are you getting that sound? So humanity is figuring out how to make beautiful sound in streaming. And so we're all able to listen to each other now. And so I've had seven concerts during Corona time. I've been in rehearsal the whole time.
That's fantastic. How about now? Are you at the point where gigs are starting to come back up again, performing in front of live audiences? And where do you hope to go with this?
Well, just had a really good gig last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago at the Canyon Club in Agora, which is also a very nice club where people play. And Buddy Guy is going to be there. And anyway, we had a wonderful club. The Foo Fighters did a concert there, getting ready for Madison Square Gardens. And so I worked my way up. In my growing Boulder age, I worked my way up their ranks. I started out opening up for bands like Ambrosia and the Guess Who, and I opened up acoustically for Johnny Rivers, which was a real privilege. And now I get my own night there, and it's just phenomenal. We filled up the place, and I think that we took our group to another notch. I've been getting little letters from friends on the experience they had at the concert, and they really enjoyed it. And so now I'm really ready. We're ready. I can honestly say, we want to go on tour and festivals, opening up for national acts, and hit the world. So I got an ace group that's just ready to rock.
And folks, you're getting to hear it right now before the big explosion. I know you've been written up recently in magazines like Valley Scene as you're getting back at it. I'm telling you, if you ever did need a day job, though, Marlon, you'd be pretty darn good as a preschool teacher. Folks, check out Marlon Hoffman because class is in session.
Let's hear it again. La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
Okay, so when I tell you to sing the song, you sing the la la with me, okay? There's only 2 chords. Anybody can be a guitar player. There's only 2 chords in this song. It goes like this. I could tell you I love you every day. You are the kids for me, and I could hear you say, never give up on love, never get up on love. Sing with me. La 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 la. La 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 la. Louder. La 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 la. Louder. La 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 la. Never give up on love. Never give up on love. Now, what's your teacher's name?
Mama Allah.
Mama Allah. So next time, instead of la la, we'll say Mama Allah. We'll sing Mama Allah, okay? Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Say it. Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Louder. Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Louder. Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Okay. I wake up in the morning and go to school with my friends. I see them every day. They are my very best friend. With who? Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Everybody. Mama Allah, Mama Allah, Mama Allah. Mama Allah. Is that a good song?
Yeah.
Let's clap our hands.
Oh, that is priceless. Even the guy behind the camera is clapping and singing along. Marlon, do you remember Romper Room? I think we've gone full circle.
I see Bill. Happy birthday, Bill.
Speaking of that, did you? I'm sure that when you have the ability like you do to reach out and touch somebody, you never know how you're going to inspire them. You must have had people in your life who inspired you, teachers, other musicians, family members. How much does it mean to you knowing that somebody out there just believes in you when you're really not sure about yourself?
It means everything. It means everything. And that's love. I have a song called I Believe in You. Bob Dylan wrote a song called I Believe in You. You could look up Look I Believe in You up on Spotify. There's probably 100 songs. We have to believe in each other. We have to believe in each other. And, even our enemies, so to speak, even people that we are in misunderstanding with, and I know you have to have boundaries with people that are scary and dangerous and blah, 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 but you still have to have prayers in your mind for their well-being, which is hard. We get so defensive in our survival mode and kill or be killed and fight or run, but boy, the next step, folks, the Beatles had it right, Buddha had it right. Jesus had it right, just have belief and love, that's about it. I could go on.
Talk to us a little bit about the power of creativity, what it does for you to be able to write and perform, and what creativity does for all of us.
Well, I think it's a necessity. And some people say to me, I couldn't sing, so I didn't sing, or I was never an artist, so I didn't draw. I don't believe it. I believe all human beings that know how to eat food and know how to take care of themselves are artistic and creative on some level. They were either not nurtured to do so, are told that they couldn't do it, or no one ever believed in them to do so, or themselves So here's why. It gets to the law of thermodynamics, which says you can't create or destroy energy, and energy moves to its least place of resistance. So energy is going to go somewhere. And if you look at it realistically, including your emotions, they're either going to be depressed because there's no avenue for them, or they're going to be expressed. Okay? Expressed. And that's where health and growth and creativity come, in the expression. So whether you're scribbling and doodling on a piece of paper, that's expression. You're writing your journal about your feelings, whether you're angry or you're in love, whatever, that's expression. You're calling up a friend on the phone or doing a Zoom and talking about it. You're having a show called Growing Bolder, that's expression. You're very expressive, Bill. And boy, you put Bill and Marlon together and you get a boom expression. Okay. So
we'll be here for the next 12 hours, people.
So I think creativity is our salvation in some form or another. Plant it, working in your garden. That's creative.
One of the things that we've always preach also, Marlon, is that, people think, because we're so used to sitting on the couch and watching stuff on TV, we think of performing, singing, songwriting, whatever, as a spectator sport. It's not. It's a participatory thing, like you and those kids. That was Pete Seeger's thing. And who did Pete Seeger influence more than anybody else? Roger McGuinn, who you have tickets to see this weekend. So it all comes around. And that's what you do. Your songs have that I want to sing with him quality. You're approachable. You're not like a mysterious alien from another planet like Bowie, or a hair band or something that we wish we could be but we never could. You're that guy next door. Your songs are about things that we feel and relate to, and man, that's a pretty magical thing. And something else about creativity, the more we engage in it, the more new things we try, the more we challenge ourselves, then the greater the benefits. I mean, if you indulge in creativity, you can't help to, like Marlon Hoffman likes to sing, grow strong.
happens in a glance. The war is raging. We are bothered by our past. Frequently I remember all the sickness in my dream of jealousy and heartbreak and the moon of dreams.
Another great one, Marlon. I could sit back and just crush those tunes all day long. They just make you feel good.
I don't know what's happening here. We listen to Grow Strong on the Growing Boulder show.
It's good. We almost came after you for copyright, but we'll let it slide this time. You know, when we were growing up, it was pretty rare. You know, we mentioned Roger McGuinn, and Pete Seeger performed until he was in his 90s, and it's pretty rare to find somebody pushing 70. Still gigging, touring, and still climbing. But now they're everywhere. You mentioned, Davy Johnstone and Waddy Wachtel, and we talked about Lee Sklar before we went on. Well, it's like older musicians are everywhere and doing amazing things. Any explanation for why you think that might be?
Thank you. Before I get there, I just want to thank my daughter Rose for painting that guitar, and I want to thank my partner Angie for always being there and believing in me. So I just want to do that. Gratitude will get you pretty good. So anyway, and I have so much gratitude. To answer that question, I do think it's a really important question, Bill, and it's the key of what you're doing right now, and why it's valid and important and what's happening. And that is, when I was a kid, I studied other cultures, and I studied the Native American cultures in America and in India, and a few hundred years ago, all the wisdom was always in the elders, and then the wisdom went down to the youth and whatever and came up. But with media and explosiveness and rock and roll and the young, it seems like sometimes the value and the decision making comes from people that have youth, and that's great because people have to become responsible. But Yoda, my hero, wise old soul, and so I think we're moving into a time where, because of science, you get to live longer. And because of health, you get to live longer, and spirituality. And there's another level of doing and creativity and decision making for the elders. And so I just think it's time. The pendulum is swinging in that direction for compassion, love, and wisdom coming down in that direction. It's kind of an anti-ageism situation. So here I am. I'm not 16 playing drums in a band doing Who covers. I'm 68 with an all original show, and I want people to hear it.
And getting better and bigger all the time. Marlon, what would you mentioned that? What would 28-year-old Marlon Hoffman think of the 68-year-old version?
Oh God. Okay, I gotta be honest. I gotta be really honest. He think you are really cool, Marlon. He think you're cool. So that's
good. I wasn't sure what you were going to say there. I'm glad you went that direction.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Hey, here's an easier one. What would Grandpa Dave think of you?
Oh, so folks, I have a grandpa named Dave, and he worked in cloth his whole life, selling dish towels and things, and he put his brothers and sisters. He was an orphan. Put his brothers and sisters through college and stuff. He's passed away, and Grandpa Dave was the kindest man. Archetypically, he was like George Burns meets Robert De Niro. He was quiet, and he had a sense of humor, and he was humble. But he had every single record the Reader's Digest ever met, for those that remember those. And I would sit there and listen to all of him on his record player, and he'd write down every little song he listened to. He'd write the date of when he listened to that song. And he was, and his wife, my grandma, Grandma Izzy, she was a piano player. She did Tootsie Goodbye. And so they brought me the music, and he would be really happy. And he wouldn't say how happy he was. He would just smile and be happy. And so I got a song called Grandpa Dave that I was in Florida. I was in Coral Gables, and I had a tarot deck, a Native American tarot, and I wrote a song, and he was in the chorus. It's kind of a nonsense song, but it's a tribute to him. Anyway, he would love it.
Oh, well, that sure would be cool if we could see a clip of the song you wrote called Grandpa Dave. Roll it.
I got a pad of purple paper says,
Go for it!
down the street cries a thief, he screams.
One more, hey!
I'm in Miami on a pick and a chain. It's a hot August night, gonna rain. Working on 10,000 dreams, work on my mind. Broken frame, electric chairs. Send my love to Grandpa Dave. Hey, Roy!
Shredding out there. Marlon, this is a show I've got to see. I mean, the vibe that you give off, the energy is fantastic. So how do we find out more about you? Where do we go to find your music and to check you out?
Thank you. Well, there's 2 albums out that I did at a very cool studio in Santa Monica called The Village Recorder, which has a lot of history. And the albums are called La Happy and La Paix, but it's Marlon Hoffman Band on iTunes or Spotify. Marlon Hoffman Band. It's everywhere and on Amazon. And it's distributed. Just type in Marlon Hoffman Band. It'll all pop up. And my website is marlonhoffman.com, MarlonHoffman.com. And I invite anybody to say hello on Facebook. Either I have 2 Facebook sites, Marlon Hoffman and Marlon Hoffman Band. So it's pretty easy for anybody to connect these days, isn't it? And you can call Bill Schaefer; he'll direct you.
I'll put us on the 3-way call, and we could give him the full experience. But that is so cool, Marlon. And I always do this to everybody, and it's probably the toughest question of the whole thing, just because it's kind of a summing up, and people never stop to really think about this. But you really have had an incredible life. You've met so many interesting characters along the way and experienced so many different kinds of things. You live in LA, the movie capital of the world. What's the movie of your life about? What's the moral of the Marlon Hoffman story? What have you learned about yourself, about people, about dreams, about reality, about life that you'd like to share with us?
Wow, that kind of brought a tear to my eye. Okay, well, for those that have a problem with this, I apologize, but for those that don't, you'll know what I'm talking about. That you're not alone. There's a very loving higher power, God, who loves you very much. And the more quiet you get and the more rest you can give yourself to heal, then you can go out and explode and go forward with your, like I said, passion. And there's a reason you came here. Every one of us, we're not repeated. There's no repetition of any individual in the history of man. And every one of us, I want to say, comes down here for a reason. It might be just to love one person. It might be to paint one picture or tell one story, whatever it is. But do it. And don't give up. Do not give up. Even if everything around you is just impossibly opposite of what you want and what you think you would like to do, just keep it alive in your mind and in your notes. You know, I think of the great prophets that spent time in jail. They had nothing, They couldn't move, but in their mind and in their hearts, you know, I could tell stories about Nelson Mandela, you know, many people, you know, Martin Luther King Jr., just people that were just confined, or people that had been sick in a hospital and then got out. You know, I know so many healing stories, and the ones that don't end up that way, we just have to accept that they're moving on to a better place. I could go on. So, you know, that's a tough question. I hope I did a little bit okay.
Really, you knocked it out of the park, Marlon. You knocked this whole stream out of the park. I mean, everything you said was so interesting, so eye-opening, and so right on. And what I love the most about it, you know, people always say, well, yeah, I'll come on your program and talk about myself. And you never did that at all this whole time. You've kind of, the whole time watching this thing, I get the feeling the show is about me. It's about Tom Lamb who's watching. It's about Patricia Bishop who's watching. It's how you stepped up to face the obstacles that got thrown in front of you in your journey, and how you made the best out of whatever situation you got yourself into. And here you are at a point where most people would be winding down, sitting on the couch watching Matlock and looking at the watch going, I wonder when it's going to happen.
I like my Bosch. I watch television.
But man, you're out there, Marlon. You're living life. Life is still an adventure for you. It's not about what you did as much as about what you're gonna do, and that's fantastic. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to kind of wrap up?
Well, just gratitude to you, first of all. Really, man, it's huge what you're doing for others and yourself. And I know I've just gotten to know you better lately, and you know, all the unsaid things I want to say to you. I hope we can stay friends a long time, and let this grow, or let our friendship grow. And anybody out there that feels a connection, please connect and check out my songs. You know, I really, you know, I wrote the poems in moments of when all I could do was express my energy for these poems. And I took them out onto the streets of Manhattan and earned my bagel and coffee for that day. And now I got a full ass 8-piece band that's raring to go. So, you know, just enjoy life. Okay, that's my last thing I want to say.
Marlon, that was great, man. Never too old, and it is never too late. Thank you for your time, your conversation, and your music. What a great guy. And folks, do look for him online. MarlonHoffman.com. Look for him on Spotify, iTunes, wherever it is you find your music. Very good stuff. So listen, we want to thank you for being with us, for being interested, and for checking us out. Spread the word with everybody you know. And remember, no matter what opportunities, challenges, adventures that life throws at us, we can find a way to make the best of it. We're all pulling for you. Remember, we're all in this together, because that's growing bolder. I'm Bill Schaefer. Thanks for watching.